Hi, my name is Deb Schnell, and this is my final project on communication. Uh, the topic that I chose, there was actually two of them. I chose I language and I chose power language. One of the reasons why I chose I language, when I read the insert in the book on I language, it showed when you speak with people, you take personal responsibility for your actions as well as your feelings. I thought this would be a very good topic to have because in my line of work, we balance what our job is as case managers with the client's responsibilities in their own betterment of their situation. So I thought that would be very interesting to research into practice. There were times in case management where the client would come in and we would have a discussion, and it kind of felt at times it was all one sided, and that I didn't have any responsibility on my end, even though I carry a little bit. So I implemented the I language. There was a single female parent that had come in during case management last week, and we were discussing supportive services that she was interested in, and I made sure to implement the I language by explaining to her what my responsibility was. I will be the one who will write the narratives. I will also do the DMV check. But again, you have to balance what their responsibility is as well in these supportive services because it is for them. This would include their responsibility would be to provide a copy of their driver's license and insurance if that was not requested, as well as registration on their vehicle if they were interested, like she would be for insurance, and it would also she would have to provide three bids on how much it would cost for her to have insurance. So I thought this topic would be very interesting. I'm having to balance both my responsibility and the client's responsibilities in this. I can tell you it was very difficult to implement because of this balance. It's not just what I can do for them, but it's also what they can do for themselves. And I believe empowerment's the key, but I also understand that I also have a responsibility to do as well. That's why I'm there. Power language. I tend to babble. I always have. I think it comes from my inability to think on my feet. So, in order to fill up the gap or to be uncomfortable with silence, I will talk. And I found that it's not as helpful as if I were to make very simple, short sentences using power language. I can help you. I don't have that answer, but I will call you later. Those type of situations. I think I feel uncomfortable letting them know that I don't have the answer, or sometimes I do not like conflict, which is evident in the last different personality tests that we've taken and other ones that I've took in other classes. That in order to smooth things over, I'll use language that maybe isn't as powerful as it should be. So we're working with a client, a two-parent household client. They came in. They've been there once before, and they bring their children in. It tends to be very difficult to speak with them and pay attention. So using power language, keeping it short and sweet, helps them to focus. I will do this. I need you to do this. Keeps it keeps it focused and keeps the conversation and the case management moving, and that was helpful. So those were kind of the two anyway specific actions that I've taken. I also tend, when I have time blocked out for specific individuals to come in and work with them, I start to think about how I could best communicate with them using both of these tools. Um, it's always the clients that I do work with that I tend to use this for. Although I believe especially the I language would be more beneficial when speaking with my supervisor. I have not had the opportunity to speak with her as much, other than over Skype, because she has been working out of another office recently. So, but one of the few times that I've had to speak with her, I've found that using iLanguage and Power Language it tends to be more effective communication. I think the client, in both clients, in both the single female and the two parent household, I think they reacted a lot better because the conversations were more direct and to the point, and they were able to understand what, in fact, I was saying, instead of using the shoulds, the maybes, the possibilities, and dragging out the conversation. So I think in both of those circumstances, the conversation was more positive. These are very new situations, very new techniques of communication for me. So this is not a one and done for me. This is going to be something that I will work on long term. How I would communicate permanently with this is just it's going to be trial, continuously using these techniques. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I do necessarily not agree with that, but I also understand it's going to take me probably a little longer, and the environment that I work in as well. I would, in fact, remember to keep the conversations short, especially if I have to give maybe not great news to the client. Short and sweet. Don't drag it out would be most effective. What I've learned to stay on task is just keeping it back in my mind that sometimes more is not better. Being very specific, saying when I need to, and what my responsibility is or was in certain circumstances can be very helpful, as well as making it very clear what specific is needed in order to work with a client, or if the client needs to be doing something. The growth that I've learned the growth that I've had while in this class, I can say I've learned a lot. I've always known that my listening skills are maybe not the best. I can tell you specifically another example, not one that I listed here on necessarily my project, but interesting enough came up when speaking with a client who was under sanction for not following the rules of the program. I thought in my mind that they might have been angry because they were sanctioned, and so I was again trying to smooth things over like I like to do, and he interrupted me and said, "No, I'm not upset at all. This is in fact what I'm feeling." And I caught myself after he said that, that my assumptions and my lack of thinking and listening skills again were really reflected, and so that keeps me on track when I communicate with people, and it's just a good reminder that I really need to listen to people as well, and their issues, and not to assume. That's another thing that I need to work on. So I can tell you I've learned a lot in this class, and the 4-box model was especially helpful. Sometimes in the office people tend to make assumptions about other people that you've never met, and then you end up having to work with them. And so the 4-box model does come in handy if I have to go to a conference or a workshop with other people that I don't know, but I've heard a lot about. So that helps build the relationship. Another one, I'm looking at my notes. Defensiveness, that is huge. That was it. It was really great to learn that is something that a lot of people do have, and why that is. So that makes me more aware why I become defensive, and learn to circumvent that. And then as well use I statements to help prevent other people from becoming defensive. So again, I really learned a lot. I have a lot more to learn, and I have a lot more to practice on before these things become something that's very natural for me. Thank you, and I really enjoyed being a part of this class.